Hello everybody, this is Pilgrim here, and today I have a, let's call it a performance video. Let's give you my recent background with Path of Exile 2. I have not been having a great time in Path of Exile 2. That is not because necessarily like any of the balance changes or anything like that. That's not what this video is about. No, my issues with Path of Exile 2, the thing that nearly made me quit the game, and I'm not making a jest, okay, I'm being 100% serious here, was due to performance. I was on Windows 11, it was fully updated, I had set things to, max performance mode, and it was bad, and some of the issues that I had had also been reported en masse by other people as well, but some of those would be insanely long load times. I mean, we are talking minutes at a time, like 3, maybe even 4 minutes sometimes. And textures not loading, like whole blocks of the map not loading, creatures not loading, particle effects not loading, and that's even when you do actually get into the zone. It's just like super inconsistent performance as well. Now, let me just show you my current performance. So we are on DirectX 12. I've currently got VSync off just so that you can see the max FPS I'm getting. I do normally turn VSync on, so I have less screen tearing. I've got dynamic resolution on 1080p. We're using NVIDIA DLSS on balanced. And then we've got a lot of defaults here as well. Most of it, as you can see, is high. So high textures, middle anisotropic filtering, global illumination. Really the only thing that isn't high is shadow. And then down here we've also got triple buffering, just so that it's got more frame rate stability, and dynamic culling, and target frame rate is at 120. So that's our current settings. I'll also say, after all of that, and with around 80 at least in our hideout, and it's around 75, 70 in areas, is that I'm on Linux now. So Windows, there wasn't just an issue with those let's actually talk about it. So shaders was the big one. There was more prevalent in this update, but it did exist in the old update as well, in the 0.1. There were also issues with NVIDIA drivers just generally. There was a big issue with a Microsoft update that is still not resolved to my knowledge, that has been pulled from the current update patch server. If you didn't get rid of it in time, you are stuck with it, so you cannot uninstall it. It was also backported into Windows 10, so even there was a load of people that were suggesting go to Windows 10. Well, it's because those people did not have that update. Eventually though, if they were very unlucky, it still installed it for them when they did their updates, and they didn't notice, and it went too far and thus couldn't uninstall it in time. Okay, because you can only uninstall something after, I believe, or before like a month. If anything, after that, you're restricted from doing it. And so, yeah, when I have been trying to diagnose the hell out of this. Now, to give you some of my personal background, I am a IT technician, and I have a fuck ton of experience. I have 4.5 years of retail IT repair. So this is where, you know, regular people would come in with their laptops, their desktops, with all the sorts of issues that a regular user might have, and they don't know how to fix. Okay, this could be hardware, this could be software. It's obviously a store, so I built machines, I managed an entire store on top of that as well. And then I also have another 3.5 years with as a first and second line MSP technician as well. So that is MSP is Microsoft Service Provider. So we're talking businesses here. So 365, Citrix, you know, server staff. Corporate IT, and so 8 years of really good, solid IT experience, hardware and software, and I have spent fucking hours. Like, we're talking 12 to 16 hours. Going through various different diagnostic stuff, not in one go. It's just you know, I'll do some playing for a couple of hours, and then something will annoy me, and I'll try and do some more diagnostics. And this was also not counting the time it takes to physically download the game. It takes me, and I don't have fiber, but I also don't have awful internet. Okay, but it still takes a 90 gigabyte game around 8 hours to download and install. Okay, and I feel like this is actually pretty typical. 90 gigabytes is a fucking massive amount of data. Not everybody has fiber. I think the vast majority of people, in fact, have copper, and they will be getting potentially up to 60 megabits a second. Okay, that's a pretty standard rate in the UK if you're on copper, and it's basically the top end. The top end of copper is about 70, but yeah, most people, I think, you know, the major service providers like BT, or those derived from BT, don't have fiber. So yeah, basically, if one of my diagnostic steps is to reinstall the game, I basically have to download it while I'm sleeping. And yeah, all in all, it got to a stage where, you know, stuff just wouldn't load. You know, there'd be entire sections, I think I've already mentioned this, but entire sections of the map that would just not load. And it was also causing issues for trading. So I believe there was an issue where, you know, some people are complaining about trade this league, and here's the thing: people aren't mentioning trade and performance in the same vein. But after diagnosing it, I actually think you should. So one of the issues that people are having, why they're getting frustrated with people in general, is people are thinking that players are just stupid. Like, there's a huge influx of new players, and they're just dumb when it comes to trading. Well, I like to give the benefit of the doubt to people. I don't think people are dumb. If they see a box come up on screen, I firmly believe they'll click accept. It's in your face. there's a notification, like you can hear it, you can't fucking miss it. So I don't think it's people's fault. What I've experienced is from the other end, from the proposed stupid person, you know, the people coming into your trade out to try and trade, right? Because I would load into their hideouts, it would take about 3, maybe even 4 minutes, right? Absolutely fucking stupid amount of load time. Okay, and it didn't used to be like that for me. When I first did it, when I first played the game on 0.1, it was still pretty long. It's still about 35 seconds, I think I had on average, and that's long. But what actually happened relatively recently was 3 to 4 minute load times. And when I loaded in, my chat box had like potentially half a dozen failed trade requests in it. Okay, that's because I loaded into their area, they could see me, they could interact with me, but I still had a fucking loading screen and I couldn't do anything. And so if people are getting frustrated with trading, people not clicking accept, well, maybe they were just in the same position that I was in, and they didn't know. They were still loading. You know, not the user's fault, the game's fault. So, and the reason I know that is because now everything is fine. And you may be wondering, well, how did I fix that? Well, it's something that not everybody is going to be willing to do. And that is, I went to Linux. I'm using Linux Mint. If you're new to Linux and you want to give this a go for the first time, I would recommend Linux Mint. It's a really easy, a really simple UI. You'll be very familiar with it. And it's not going to be very different than Windows. So, you know, the same sorts of things apply. There'll be like an update manager, so just make sure you're updating. I will say that it's even more important to do your updates on Linux when you first install it than it is on Windows, but provided you get that out of the way and you specifically tell for like gaming purposes, you'll need to actually tell Linux to use your dedicated graphics card. That won't be default. Okay, so if you install your game and it's got really trash performance, it's probably because it's using the wrong driver. You do need to specifically state which driver you're using, and you'll do that in the settings menu. And for me, I'm using an NVIDIA card, so I'm using a 2070 Max Q because it's a laptop. So I just needed to select the NVIDIA driver, and it downloads it and installs it, and then you've got to do a restart, and that's normal. But it's painless. But yeah, oh my god, it was a night and day. It immediately worked. Okay, immediately, like no questions, no issues. It did exactly what it was supposed to do, which is you go into a zone, you'd see the shader bar go up, and then within about usually 30 seconds, it would disappear because it would load all the shaders. But you also didn't need to wait around. You should be able to, you know, get into the zone and immediately start killing stuff. You know, your FPS is probably going to drop a bit, but after that initial burst, it will go back to normal. It's pretty standard behavior. That's what you should expect. Okay, and that just was not happening on Windows 11. And it same for Windows 10 as well. If you had that same update installed, and yeah, and there's multiple people at fault. Okay, during my diagnostics and testing, I was finding multiple superfluous, multiple folders. I was finding folders just being in the wrong locations, like the config file, for example. Okay, everybody will tell you that you simply go to your user account, your documents, my games, Path of Exile 2, and then boom, config underscore whatever dot ini, right? And you just open it up into a text file, and you can change your settings, and it's the same settings that you'll see here. In fact, a bit more. Not everything is represented here in game. And anytime there's an issue, in theory, a quick fix would be to just go into your config file, and it might be, you can't load the game, so it might be a render issue. So maybe Vulkan is being annoying, so you need to quickly change it to DirectX, right? Again, pretty normal stuff. People will send you there. However, what I experienced is my config not actually updating. I was like, why the fuck isn't this working? I'm changing it, I'm changing the resolution, I'm changing the quality. None of this is being affected in game. And after like an hour and a half of searching, I figured out that the actual config that it was using was in a different location. It was sending it installed it into my OneDrive documents, my games, Path of Exile 2, right? But what was stupid about it is that, it's stupid already, but it was even more stupid, is that I'd actually disabled OneDrive months earlier. So I uninstalled it, I moved all of my data across to Google Drive, and because unfortunately it didn't just work, there's a whole load of bullshit to do with OneDrive with Windows. I had to go into the registry and change a load of file paths so that stuff would not save there, and this works with everything else, but it didn't work with Path of Exile. Okay, a new install of Path of Exile still decided to install there. It makes no fucking sense, and it wasted an hour and a half of my time at least. There were also multiple issues with shaders. So again, we know that there was a shader issue. The typical solution to this, not just with Path of Exile, but for just games in general, is you delete the contents of your shader caches. Okay, and there's multiple different shader caches about. There's one for Steam, there's one for Nvidia, there'll be one for AMD, and what I found is that there were duplicate folders being created with gigabytes of these things, of these shaders, and this is insane. This is an insane amount of shaders, and being duplicated and all of this, and all you should have to do, right? I can't stress this enough, right? Is just delete the contents of your shaders, right? Then when you go into the game, it re-downloads them. Okay, it's a bit more annoying. You do have to wait longer than usual, but once it's done, they should be cached, and they should be usable, and it should be able to refer to them as a cached item should be. It wasn't fucking doing it. Right? It was just constantly re-downloading the same shaders, wasn't looking at them when they had downloaded. It was just completely fucked. And the last nail in the coffin is that there were just there have been issues for months with Nvidia drivers on Windows. So I was like, you know what, I've already moved stuff over to Google Drive. Yes, there's going to be a bit of a pain because there are some things on Windows that you can't get on Linux that I do actively use. One of them being NVIDIA Broadcast, which is a RTX AI support tool. Basically, you use it as a pass-through for webcams and microphones, and it uses AI for cleaning up the image and cleaning up the sound, and it works flawlessly. I love that program, and if you don't use it, I highly suggest you look into it, if you're using NVIDIA anyway. But yeah, that doesn't exist on Linux, and there's no easy way to do something similar. As a result, this particular video of mine, you'll notice that the audio is not nearly as good, and I apologise for that. But you know, I've only installed Linux. I've only been using it for the last like 12 hours or so now, so I haven't gotten around to any potential workarounds. But the point is, you know, I just bit the bullet and decided to install Linux Mint, did all of the normal setup stuff. The whole thing probably took about 3 hours. That's downloading and using Rufus to make the installer, installing it, and then doing all of the updates. That took about 3 hours. And then I downloaded the game overnight, and I've been testing this morning and through the midday and stuff like that. And just the whole process, honestly, was pretty seamless. Never had an issue, and the game just worked. Okay, so I've just been talking. Let me actually do something. So let's go to Desha. I don't know if this is going to recreate the zone or whatever, but here we go. It looks like it has recreated the zone. Okay, and you can see that wasn't a several minute load time. You can see that the shader's already gone, right? You saw it, and it went down again. And my god, that is exactly what it's supposed to be. Okay, and if we go back to our hideout, which, you know, we have the shaders already there. Boom, like seconds, right? Was that 3 seconds? Go back to Desha. Oh, not the caravan. Shit. Oh my god, this is towns always take long. Fuck, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, I'm going to give you an idea how long it will be going into into town for the first time. It's really annoying because there's always more shaders when you go into town, because it has to count all of the MTXs and other armors and all of that, and just generally, like, the FPS is also fucking sucks. So let's go back to Desha. And yeah, like really quick hideout times. And bearing in mind this is copper, so on fiber, if you are actually on fiber, this will be quicker. It'll be much quicker. Alright, this is simply the speed that copper goes at. Or good copper, anyway, not the shit copper. If you've got something like a 20 megabits a second download, I know that in the US it's particularly bad for you guys, but copper in the UK typically means 60 to 70, which is the max. And let's go back to the caravan. It's because it's the worst example here. And come on. Yeah, towns are just awful in general, but there you go. Okay, and just so that I've got a 60 FPS, I'm going to go immediately back to town. So yeah, that gives you an idea, and just bear in mind that before, while I was on Windows, these were multi-minute load times. Okay, and I'm not going to go ahead and do a load of fighting. There's no need to do that. to actually test. I'll just say that it's also more consistent. Okay, and so yeah, the fix for me was quite simply moving away from Windows in this case. It's a lot of bother, honestly, for a lot of people. I'm not expecting you to do that. I'm just saying that if you're having these same sorts of issues, unfortunately, a guy with 8 years experience can't fix it. You know, until all of these people, until Nvidia, until Microsoft, until GGG, you know, stops, you know, with their bullshittery, the Windows experience is honestly going to fucking suck. I don't understand why most people, and I will say this, most people are fine. You know, 200,000 people, and we've got, you know, multiple, like, 70 plus page bug reports on the forums. And that seems like a lot, and it is a lot, but it's nothing next to 200,000 players. So, like, if you are having this issue, you know, I'm afraid to say, but you are a minority. It is an issue, and they do need to fix it, but unfortunately, you know, these issues did exist 4 months ago when the game first came out, and they will exist probably for some time to come, because it is multiple people at fault. Okay, you know, optimization for the game, save locations for where these shaders should go. You know, that's a GGE, a Grinding Gear Games issue, right? Their installer, where it's going to, that's not working right? The way that it's trying to load those shaders, again, is at least partly their fault. The other fault is, of course, the Nvidia drivers, but also the Nvidia shaders. They have their own shaders. And quite honestly, I don't know which one is taking preference, or if there is a preference, if it's just downloading both. I honestly don't know. I couldn't even begin to imagine how I would find out, if I'm going to be honest. And, you know, duplicate shader folders, again, like, whose fault is that? I don't know. Either GGG's or Nvidia's, one of them. There's also a mesh that, so the actual issue for Microsoft was actually a scheduling issue. And in fact, it's actually quite funny. This, so last, in 0.1, you would actually download a third-party tool called the Path of Exile, oh god, what was it called? Unpacker, or something like that. So yeah, something like that. Anyway, and basically what that did is, because Microsoft, and this, I do believe this is Microsoft issue specifically, they had messed up task scheduling, so that when you loaded into a zone, something would fuck up and your machine would just brick. Basically what this third-party tool did is, when it detected that, it immediately removed 2 of your cores, your CPU cores, from being used for the game, so that Windows could still physically function. And then it reset the task scheduler. Okay, and it ended up being a pretty seamless experience when you had that. You'd actually see the load screen hitch when you knew it would have an issue, but then it would immediately recover because of the third-party tool. Well, what GGG actually has done is implemented that same workaround. So it's actually not a fix. I just want to make that perfectly clear. That load screen issue is still an issue, but it's not GGG's fault. It is Microsoft's fault. and they still have not fixed it. And so you can still see the hitch in the load screen, and but it recovers. And the reason I know this is I don't have that third-party app installed. Now it doesn't actually happen at all now. I'd say I noticed that while I was still on Windows. So yeah, it was quite funny that GGG simply took the idea from the third-party tool and just implemented it natively for 0.2. So yeah, but yeah, that's my experience, and yeah, it was absolutely abysmal on Windows, and it has been smooth sailing on Linux, and I couldn't be happier at this stage. Overall, I'd say it's an 8 out of 10 experience. I had a hitch initially, and that was it. I had to change something in the config, and the other one was obviously some of the apps that I can't port over. And that was it. So 8 out of 10 experience, would do again. Yeah, hope you liked that video. Give me your thoughts in the comments below. Have a good one.